needs into account. However, the ANC appreciates the response of the eThekwini Metropolitan Municipality, which indicates it had submitted Stage 1 application to the KwaZulu-Natal Department of Women's Settlement in March 2020. It further states the department was now assessing the application following the easing of the lockdown. The municipality will commence with advertising tender services, and we appeal to the municipality to follow the due process in this regard. The eThekwini Metropolitan Municipality should ensure it brings government closer to the people with the objective of fast-tracking delivery of quality basic services to the people. It should improve financial management of the municipality by employing capable and qualified staff. We therefore appeal to the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, COGTA, as the main stakeholder to ensure that all municipalities perform their basic responsibilities and functions consistently by putting people and their concern first, promoting good governance, transparency and accountability, ensuring sound financial management and accounting. In conclusion, Chairperson, the ANC urges the eThekwini Metropolitan Municipality to continue building on the achievement of the ANC-led government post-1994 democratic elections. The ANC has made giant strides in terms of providing services such as houses, water and sanitation, electricity, roads that link our communities. I thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. That concludes the debate on this report. We shall now proceed to the last order of the day, which is the consideration of the report of Portfolio Committee on Transport. Can you please mute your mic? Can you please mute your mic?
I was thinking.
Honorable Tlo, can you mute your mic, please?
Yes, Chairperson.
Mute your mic. We shall now proceed to the last order of the day, which is consideration of the report of the Portfolio Committee on Transport on Oversight visit to assess state of readiness of various modes of transport and their attendant facilities in line with implementation of Level 3 regulations of COVID-19 lockdown. I now recognize the Honorable Zwane from the virtual platform.
Thanks, Chair. Good afternoon to the honorable members. The aim of our oversight visit in Bloemfontein was twofold, Chair. The first one was Mangaung Testing Center, and of course the second one was the Integrated Public Transport Network. During our visit to the Lingau Testing Center, the committee was welcomed by 4 junior officials and a representative from SALGA. The committee then visited the following areas: the service station, where we found long queues amongst other challenges, and we're told that these long queues were caused by the COVID-19 and the lack of disinfection services. The second area we visited as a committee was the eye testing area. And there we found that out of 8 eye testing machines, 2 were not working. We then went to the license testing classroom, where there were 20 computers, because we were told that this is a new model where learners are tested through computerized methods. Out of the 20 computers which were there, only 7 computers were working. We then moved to the debt management system, and we found that out of 10 officials working there, only 7 were present at work. The committee was supposed to engage the following day with senior officials which were not present the first day on Friday to get some clarity where junior officials could not provide. And to the committee's dismay, the senior officials could not turn up for the meeting. As a result, that engagement was cancelled, and the committee resolved to make a follow-up to get clarity on the issues that were left hanging and just find out why would the senior officials be found wanting when it comes to them doing their work. On the IPTN chair, the committee was taken to 2 sites, the first being the depot construction site, and the second one being the municipality building where 10 buses were kept. On the depot construction, the committee realized that the depot was still in its infant stages of phase 1, although we're told that this phase 1 will be completed in March next year. Looking at the development progress, the committee was not convinced that this was likely to be the case. The committee then expressed concerns on the 10 buses which were still standing a year after they were purchased, and requested a detailed report breaking down the features that led the buses to cost 5.5 million rand per bus, and that report will have to follow. The committee was not able to get clarity on the issue pertaining the department because the official who was supposed to be part of the meeting did not turn up and no reasons were given. Why? The committee expressed the need.
Your time has expired.
Okay, Chair. Although there is some progress, the committee is of the view that there is still a lot to be done. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. The next speaker will be Honorable Hansinger from the DA.
Thank you, House Chair. The DA supports this report and allow me to acknowledge truckers as one of the unsung heroes during all stages of lockdown. Truckers were and still are at the forefront of distribution and moving goods and articles around the country. It will not be forgotten that truckers were denied a decent meal over thousands of kilometers. Furthermore, they were open targets and still receive little regard and even less protection. Indeed, they kept the country going in so many ways, and for that, the DA salutes you. At various stages and places, the Portfolio Committee visited ranks, stations, and terminals to check on public taxis, buses, aeroplanes, and trains. And a lot was done in effort to cope and mitigate with COVID-19. Taxis were working at full capacity, buses displayed more caution, aeroplanes were grounded, and railways stood still. At Langa and Philippi, PRASA has allowed rail track sections to be invaded by more than 600 families, who to this day prevent millions of people from getting on a train to places like Mitchell's Plain and Khayelitsha. Through this, millions of rand have shifted from rail to road, contrary to what Minister Mbalula's ideas were during question time on the 11th of November. During the debate on the 3rd of November, we shared many sad stories about vandalized rail service, but nothing will ever adequately express the scenes and feeling while visiting various stations and rail sites during level 3 in May and June. Not COVID, but bad human decision was the cause of this. Not paying security guards, not renewing security contracts, not calling on SAPS and military guard are all human decisions not undertaken by PRASA and this ANC government. Bad decisions, which also include the hasty decision to fire the PRASA board, the no-fix idea of a Toy Story war room, and the fantasy appointment of an administrator. Decisions which brought back less than 200 out of 2,228 kilometers of functioning rail track. During level 3 stage, thousands of repatriates could return, thanks to Team Home Away from Home managed by my colleague Darren Bergman in cooperation with DIRCO. Linked to this, an extensive road transport and logistics operation assisted repats to get to their home provinces after quarantine. And I want to thank the Department of Transport for their support and help in this regard. 3 categories of vehicle-related registrations validity were extended. Trade plates to the 31st of November, driving licenses and PDPs until the 31st of January next year, except vehicle registrations. Here the cutoff was mid-September, while many traffic officers were and still are undercapacitated with vehicle owners that struggle to comply, even online. Volumes are currently heaped up with both human and procedural capacity not coping. We therefore again request that the validity in all categories of vehicle, trade and person-related registrations should be extended to the end of this financial year in 2021. Related to this, and despite their and our efforts, the plight of our tourism-related minibus and bus sector operators and coach liner service providers are not heard. Many of these fleets haven't moved since March. They are struggling. Please consider waiving the permit registration and license fees. It makes no sense that aeroplanes are filled to capacity for a multi-hour flight while buses are still restricted to 70% capacity rates. Bus owners are struggling, and by waiving their registration and permit fees, we can help them to survive. Lastly, I want to thank all staff, officials and owners in public and private transport sectors for your efforts to make things safe for us. Your commitment and dedication to serve civic transport needs during all levels of lockdown is noted and highly appreciated. Ndiabulela ngexesha enindipe lona. I thank you. Ek dankie.
Thank you very much, Honorable Hansinger. I'm informed that the next speaker will be Honorable Paulson of the EFF.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, we went on oversight at various taxi ranks, bus termini, railway stations and airports to, among others, assess the state of readiness, operations and compliance at transport facilities in the midst of level 3 of the COVID-19 lockdown, to assess whether the information supplied by the Department of Transport on their assistance to the public transport nodes to prepare for the level 3 operational requirements were indeed accurate, and also to determine whether the enforcement of regulations for operations to continue under level 3 were being implemented. Now, Chairperson, to understand the public transport interchanges and its conditions, we have to first and foremost put it into context. And the context here is that these transport interchanges, or better known as taxi ranks, they are used mostly by African and colored working class commuters. So with that in mind, one can understand why the ANC are reluctant to invest and to spend money on these taxi ranks, because it's only for poor African and colored working class people. So not all of these taxi ranks were supplied with PPEs. In most taxi ranks that we visited, in some there are no functional toilets with running water. Toilets were either broken or leaking. There are no facilities to wash hands. At the Germiston taxi rank, commuters were relieving themselves in the open spaces. The sanitizers that were procured by the taxi industry themselves often ran out without a plan to restock. Facilities were filthy and there were no refuse bins in sight. Small tanks were supplied, but they were never filled with water. Some facilities have not been cleaned since the commencement of the lockdown. At the Nyanga public transport interchange, taxis and buses were overloaded above the regulated 70% loading capacity, and there were no visible law enforcement and a general sense of lawlessness. This overloading was due to the central line not being operational for over a year. The central line in Cape Town used to be the daily commute for more than 400,000 passengers. Fixing the central line should be given the same priority as the South African Airways. There were also many unroadworthy, scrapped and abandoned vehicles parked at these facilities. It's the same with the bus rapid transit system, particularly the Rea Vaya, which the state has invested billions of rands, as well as our rails and ports. The information supplied by the Department of Transport in most instances are not a true reflection of the status quo on the ground. However, Chairperson, I want to pay special attention to the difference between the airports and other nodes of transport that are used by 80% of daily commuters.
Honorable Paulson, your time has expired.
Can't be, Chair. 2 minutes.
I'm advised by the table, Honorable Paulson, I don't make my time, unfortunately. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chair.
Our next speaker will be Honorable KP Sitole.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson and honorable members. Proper hygiene and sanitation are most important in slowing down the spread of coronavirus. The public transport sector is crowded, making proper hygiene and sanitation nearly impossible. As such, supporting the transport sector is needed. Industry members have reported that they have received very little support from the transport department. Taxi drivers did not receive faces masks, sanitizers were not issued to the taxi rank. Taxi ranks were also filthy and congested. Toilets did not have any hand washing facilities. What was even more alarming was the fact that taxis were filling up with 100% capacity, despite COVID-19 regulations. Overall, the public transport sector was ill prepared for COVID-19. This is a huge issue because it means that the transport department has not fulfilled its duties. The crowded nature of public transport sectors, specifically taxi ranks, make it a hotspot for COVID-19. The fact that social distancing is not maintained is a cause for concern. Special attention needs to be paid to funding and implementing mechanisms that will ensure that COVID-19 regulations are adhered to in the public transport sectors. Ultimately, the transport department ought to step up and fulfill its duties. This industry needs to specific government attention and is not a task for when government feels like they have time. This industry transports millions of our people and such millions of people's lives. Livelihoods and families are at risk. Currently, there is little vision and a lack of regulation that allow for dignity of working class when using this system. Passengers feel our statistics for road fatalities and now will feel more COVID-19 statistics. We need to place value in people that make us of our taxi industry. And to do this, we require a more professional service support by government incentives for transportation. Amarenki abolile lasa sihlamba khona eGauteng wonke amarenki abolile. Angibonga kakhulu mphathiselo, ngithokoza.
Thank you very much, Honorable Sitole. The next speaker will be Honorable Sheikh Imam. Honorable Sheikh Imam. I will now proceed to Honorable L.E. MacDonald of the ANC.
Thank you, Chairperson. The ANC policy on transport was captured in the RDP. The RDP highlighted the fact apartheid policies made working people reside far away from centers of employment, and that the policy ensured that multiple modes of public transport was required for people to get to work at huge costs and time. The RDP sought to make road infrastructure and rail infrastructure a priority. The program identified that the transport sector was poorly regulated. In the RDP, the ANC sought to reverse apartheid development, which was an international anomaly, by ensuring that public transport was promoted through the progressive development of the infrastructure and through planned regulation of the sector. In the Reconstruction, Growth and Transformation, Building a New Inclusive Economy views the development of social and economic infrastructure as the key to inclusive economic growth and job creation. Developing an efficient transport system is critical to the growth and development of our economy. During the committee oversight in Cape Town Harbour, it was brought to the committee's attention that 97% of container freight is still being transported by road. In line with the ANC resolution to move freight from road to rail, we urge the Minister, through his department, to speed up the removal of freight from our country's roads. Reversing the legacy of apartheid's transport policy will contribute significantly to the transformation of the country and improving the lives of the historically disadvantaged communities. When we visited the Praza Metro rail stations in the Western Cape at Langa, we found hundreds of families were erecting homes and were living on the railway lines. The committee pleads with the Western Cape DA-led government to release land to these landless people. This would assist in bringing services of the commuter rail to normalization. Much in the transport infrastructure has already been delivered and much more needs to be done, to which the ANC-led government is committed. The COVID-19 pandemic and the consequent lockdown to flatten the curve and ensure that health facilities were all ready for the peak of the pandemic has severely affected the transport sector, not only in South Africa, but globally. The negatively affected the public transport system as buses, trains and transport trucks were unable to function. With the lockdown restrictions being slowly lifted, public transport is slowly starting to function within the framework of government's disaster management regulations, which puts people's lives first through social distancing, sanitization and wearing of protective face masks, etc. During our oversight visit to the taxi ranks in Khayelitsha Site C and Nyanga Terminus, the efforts of the department could be seen to make traveling on taxis and buses during the pandemic as safe as possible. These steps taken will lead to the eventual formalization and professionalism of the taxi industry led by the ANC government.
Honorable McDonald.
The ANC supports the report and asks that this House adopts the tabled report. I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable McDonald.
Chairperson, may I raise a point of order?
Yes, Honorable Mkhaliphi.
Please, Chair, check with the staff members there, because our member, Paulson, only spoke for 2 minutes and we have 4 minutes that is allocated to EFF. Please double check, Chair, and then please give us feedback.
I'll definitely do that, Honorable Mkhaliphi, and probably give a ruling in the next plenary session, because this is the conclusion of the debate and the business of this virtual mini-plenary session.
Okay.
And the mini-plenary will now rise. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you,
Chairperson.
Unomsindo kwakho.